Hello everyone, welcome to the review for Thrasir. It is a bit late, I'm sorry about that, I just did not have much time to really work on this. Honestly, I was also debating on pushing it another day. Today was for school because, you know, I typically work 5 hours and then school. Was about cutting and welding, which is extremely draining. But, oh well, it is what it is. So, anyway, let's get started on Thrasir. Oh, and also expect another video maybe in this week, depending on how I feel as the week progresses. It's gonna be a showcase about that character I did say that I was going to make a team about. I've been testing him. I can say the results are quite concluent. But that's a topic for another time. So, Thrasir. So, fun fact, her stat line that you actually ended up finding when fighting her on Lunatic, on I believe the very first map, is very much the same stat line that is here, except with an extra 2 in speed. Of all the stats to take, you take speed. That was dumb. So, 33 attack. This is Gen 4, everybody. 33 attack. Holy shit. It's even more aberrant when we get to the comparison, but yeah, those 2 points would have been much better in attack, or even 1 in def, 1 in res, or 2 in HP. All of these options would have been better. Oh well, it is what it is. Still, the weapon is... I guess the best way I could describe this weapon is outdated. When we first saw this weapon, it was back when the dragon meta... Well, not the dragon meta, the armored meta was very big. It also really was at a weird time where dragon killers were a lot more rare. So the fact that, you know, Thrasir, first off, looks badass, 2, the weapon back then was really good, and then the fact that we're here and they have not updated the weapon whatsoever, that's a problem. See, let me put it this way, okay? Let's compare this to a refine we've got in the past here. Divine Naga. So, let's first off read Thrasir's weapon. It gives 4 across the board as long as there's an ally within 3 space. And then this ally loses 4 across the board. Which, I will say, can be used as a gimmick for Idun. Because Idun does want to get debuffs, and as a result we get not only those debuffs negated, but also gets 4 across the board, which is really, really good. But that's only 1 unit. There are not a whole lot of unit that wants to be debuffed to get a second effect. So as a result, that is a very, very precise niche. It's really good with Idun, but still. That said, so just considering the stat buff effect, this is 4 across the board versus 3 across the board on Divine Naga. Okay, so she has more stats, but she has a heavy drawback as a result, whereas Deirdre has no drawback whatsoever, and having more res than the enemy is a joke. My Deirdre is sitting at 50 plus res. Was that with res plus? No. That's just Fury 4 plus 10 and 5 flowers. That's it. I'm not really going out of my way to get res, am I? But even then, I would struggle to find any kind of unit that I don't get the 3 across the board against. So, there's that, and then there's the second effect. This is the main issue with Thrasir, okay? Back then that effect was quite good, and honestly you can make that effect work quite well. It's just very niche is the problem. Neutralizes effect that guarantees foes follow-up attacks during combat. This was in a time where null follow-up did not exist. They should have absolutely updated the effect to make this null follow-up. But instead they decided to make it neutralize effect that guarantee false follow-up. To make you understand how gimmicky and uninteresting of an effect this is, it works on QR, Vengeful Fighter, Bold Fighter, which, Jesus, I guess she can tank it now because of this effect. That's 3 skills. And then everything else is like very precise case, like Rid because Gyol gives him a follow-up. But she still loses her follow-up. It counters Yoon, I guess. It counters Air, because she... Wait, no, Air stops follow-up, she doesn't give herself one, so it does nothing against that. Yeah, kind of grasping at straw, am I? It's very weird. Back then, it was a meta surrounded by armored units. Armored units were everywhere. And as a result, this type of skill was really good, and her stat line can complement this quite well, though her B skill seems to have completely forgotten about that. More on that later. So essentially, if you compare Divine Naga to this, just the second effect here, which is countering 3 specific skill and then it counters some specific characters, I guess, to delete any visible buff your enemy might have. Jesus Christ, Divine Naga is busted by comparison. If you want my pure honest opinion about Thrasir versus Deirdre, oh boy. On low merges, Thrasir is better. On high merges, which is more high investment, but like if you compare a plus 10 Thrasir to a plus 10 Deirdre, I genuinely think Deirdre is a better unit. That said, that is a... how can I put this? It is something I'm saying right now, but we don't know if the weekly banners are rotating. If they are, you basically have no reason to pull for Thrasir if you want to just make her a unit. That said, there is one thing that makes her fairly decent, and it's the fact that she's an AR defense unit. I did not think I would ever see the day I'd say this, but this is kind of a boon in her case, because in defense, a lot of people are using dragons to just tank, essentially. And she is a dragon killer, she makes you save points even if you lose, and she hits quite hard if needed, plus can work really well in an infantry pulse team comp. So there's that. While I do say this though, I would not invest in defense mythic heroes personally, but that's just how I feel. At the end of the day, I've said this before on a stream, but AR does not really give you much in ways of reward for defense. I guess you get more flowers now for defense, but for the overall score, the fact that you might save 40, 60, 80, 100 points, it doesn't do a whole lot of difference, in the sense that you might be able to get an extra 4 or 5 grails out of this, out of like 80, 85. That said, I'm considering this if you're a tier 21 player. So like 4 or 5 grails, maybe 5, 6 flowers, and that's kind of it. Outside of the defense itself, which I guess you get a decent bit out of. But you see what where I'm getting at? That's not a whole lot, is it? Is it really worth for that? Well, at the end of the day, that's up to you to decide. Now, for the rest of the kit, Flashing Blade, I don't think I have to explain, that's a pretty good skill. Panic Smoke, I'm skipping Killing Intent for now since I have a lot to say about Killing Intent. Panic Smoke is a weird skill. On one hand, this is the only way, as far as I think anyway, that you can inflict panic that does not rely on your HP being higher. That's kind of a huge thing, because even if you use a unit that essentially does not have a whole lot of HP, you can panic as a result. This does target the target itself and the foes, so it's a bit better than a smoke, which typically only affects people around the target. That's good, and panic in this way is quite welcome, in my opinion. Hell, this is also going to be a fantastic tool for characters such as Saizo, which now will be able to inflict panic on top of 6 across the board, so his weapon can be a lot better, especially comboed with buffs. But on the other end, it's also only taking effect after a combat, which you might have killed the target in the first place then, so unless there's a unit around the target, you don't gain a whole lot out of it. Still, I do genuinely think this is a decent skill, and I'm glad to see that it's actually in the game. Now, Killing Intent. I have no problem with the requirement. Having less than 100 HP, but also have a way to fall back with penalties is actually quite welcomed. There's a lot of ways to actually inflict penalties in this game at this point, so it's it's a very easy requirement to fulfill. Now, the issue I have with this is the stat that it inflicts on the enemy. Speed and res. The weapon already pushes her speed to 43. Killing Intent pushes that to 48. This is unmerged, without an A skill in mind, without anything buffing you. You're already at 48. If you have something like even Speed Tactic, you can push that to 54. You don't need all this speed. You really don't. In a lot of ways, it also doesn't really synergize with the weapon at all. See, here's what I would have done. Instead of speed res -5, I would have done attack res -5. Her def and res are deceptively good. Because, just look at it this way. 23-27, the weapon pushes that to 27-31. We have Sturdy Blow as a seal that ends up being 31-31, right? So, with buffs, that's 37-37. Imagine if that reduced the enemy's attack by 5 in combat, pushing your bulk to 42-42. You see where I'm going with this? This is a unmerged Thrasir I'm considering here, with no boon helping whatsoever, and you're already looking at 42-42. That's insane. But instead they ended up giving her more speed and attack, essentially. Removing the enemy speed and res essentially means attack and speed buff. So the attack is quite welcomed. After all, even with the weapon active, she has only 51 attack, so pushing that to 56 is quite welcomed. It's just the speed, man. It's so close to being a very, very good skill, because, like I said, the condition is not difficult. And on top of this, it works on multiple phase. You have to understand this. This is why I said this. Because yes, there's a Forseti effect added to the weapon if you fulfill the requirement. That is indeed a fact. However, while that is a fact, you can also debuff the enemy on enemy phase. And the weapon is also multi-phase. Meaning you could actually combo this in such a way that you could just run close counter and end up having a whole lot of bulk really easily. Add Def Res Bond as well to it, and you'd be at 47-47 in bulk. Right now you can do more or less the same, but you lose just 5 def, 5 res essentially for the 5 speed that will hardly ever matter except maybe against Alm, which is... it's disappointing. It's kind of like the same thing as the weapon. It's very close to be like this really, really good weapon that has a pretty good niche, but just short of the mark. That's not to say that Thrasir is a bad unit. She is still basically a Lewin, which is one of the better Gen 2 unit. Though she does lose access to Special Spiral, which means Lewin is still better on that role. So there is that. But yeah, she's still a solid unit. Again though, Lewin. Lewin. Oh boy. Also, gotta say, I doubt anyone from Game Press watches my video, but thanks. You've changed the font on your website for stats. It's so much more readable now. That was a problem that I had with Game Press's website, since that's what I use to, you know, take the stats. It's a lot more readable now, and I'm quite happy for this. But yeah, moving on to this. So, if you're not going to be able to use, you know, Thrasir's weapon on enemy phase, since it can't backfire, in the sense that you could enemy phase something, right? But then another unit is going to lose 4 across the board, which means that if Thrasir fails to get the kill, which thankfully will be rarely, what happens is that the unit is getting danced, absolutely, and the unit that got debuffed might just get screwed as a result. Kind of a shame. Another thing is that Lewin has more attack at base, but has access to 10 Dragon Flowers. So, he essentially has 2 more attack at the cost of 1 speed when you consider flowers. And the sad thing is, when it comes down to Lewin and Thrasir, at least for player phase, the HP, def, and res are all useless stats. Although, while I say this is a certainty for Lewin, unless, you know, someone has already bearing. Whereas for Thrasir, it is an uncertainty. You see, Thrasir's effect has a requirement. Lewin's effect has no requirement. As I said, Thrasir's requirement is very easily fulfillable. However, skills such as Restore Plus can get in the way. Since not only would that heal if they've taken any kind of damage, but it would also go out of its way to get rid of debuffs. Meaning, yeah, that's kind of a problem. Though, as long as you're sticking to player phase, that should not be too much of an issue in AR. Outside of AR, that should not be much of an issue at all, since you don't really see stav units all that much outside of it. Even in Arena, it's quite rare. It's really, really quite rare, in fact. But, yeah. Lewin overall is better offensively, and since both of them has Force Seti, well, yikes. Though I will say, one of the things that actually does help Thrasir is the fact that her weapon gives 4 across the board, kind of nullifying that issue. However, Lewin has an ace up his sleeve, and that's the fact that he has access to Special Spiral. The godfather of AoE. He's honestly still the best AoE buster for green. So, as long as an AoE pops up, typically Lewin is just going to kill. That's just how it is. Hell, even then, even if you have like too much speed, you can probably just run Flashing Blade 4 with attack speed 2 as the seal. And you'd still do more damage as a result, which is quite welcome for a win. since he does need Fleshing Blade to maintain the AoE. Thrasir is overall a solid unit, but Lewin is available in the pool, and that's kind of a fact down the line if you're not relying on bulk for Thrasir, or if you don't want to really invest in the bulk. Then yeah. Honestly, it's kind of funny how low attack res is overall better, in my opinion, than Killing Intent. But low attack res is not in the game yet, so, you know. Oh well. Overall, I would still prioritize Lewin over her, because at the end of the day, Lewin is available on 3-man and 4-man banner, which has better rates overall than legendary banners. Legendary banners have twice the rate of pity fisting you over the chance of getting the character. And that's kind of a problem. Of course, even as far as normal banner goes, it's still not 50-50. It's more like, for green, I believe it's more around... actually, it's more in your favor. It's like a... about 55-45 in your favor. But yeah, 55 versus 33, I'll take the 55, thank you very much. So, yeah. Moving on to builds. Now, like I said, investing in bulk is one of the things that makes Thrasir a lot more interesting. Mystic Boost is a decent option here, surprising no one. Low attack res is also a decent option if you think you're going to be lacking in terms of damage. Another thing you can do is take a res boon and run attack death bond. You have overall a bit less bulk as a result, but you get more damage. Both of these are valid. Attack smoke is also good in general to increase your bulk. So with this, with Infinger active, you're looking at 61 attack, 53 speed, for God's sake. Even unmerged. Even unmerged, you're at 49. Stupid. Then the def and res here, with this particular set, is 45-46. That's quite good. If you run attack def bond with res plus instead, I believe res plus is a... No, it's not a super boon. It's a super bane, I believe. Actually, let's verify real quick. Yeah, I was right. Okay. So you'd be at 40 with 33, that's 38 with attack def bond. And then with the weapon, that's 42-44. 42-44 versus 45-46. So you see you do lose a decent chunk of bulk. That said, you do gain 5 attack for that, which is quite welcomed, especially on lower merges. On higher merges, it's not as much as a problem, and like I said, if low attack res ever becomes a thing, that would be also a great option for the B slot. Ruptured Sky is a no-brainer, really. At the end of the day, you get hit, you hit back, you proc every time. Every time. Which is why it's a lot more consistent as a result to run Ruptured Sky. Moonbow is a good budget option, obviously. And overall, this works fairly decently, especially if you have, say, Marth with double spur def res, for example, pushing that bulk by 8 to both stats. So that 45-46 becomes 53-54, for example. Or you can do the same with Kaden on top of his weapon, which could give an extra 4 on top of all that, which would be 57, 58 bulk. You get the idea. Kaden also would provide good buff into attack, which would be quite welcome. Like I said, attack is going to be one of the biggest problems for Thrasir with this set. So do gauge with how you want to go about it. The other set is obviously just an all-out attacker set. Really, it doesn't surprise much people, does it? Ruptured Sky is the best option here. You could also run AoEs, but AoEs won't be consistently always back up. You'll proc, you'll hit twice, and then, well, you'll hit once, typically because you'll just kill on the first hit after the AoE itself, which typically means that you'll be stuck with 2 charges and no AoEs. So, yeah, Ruptured Sky is the most consistent one. Again, Moonbow is a good option, or even Glimmer if you think that your damage is good enough. Sturdy Blow is also here in general, so you can have 37-37 bulk-wise. 41-41 with In-Finger. Again, no surprise. That's, again, another reason why I wish Killing Intent gave, you know, reduce the enemy's attack and res. Because at that point, you'd be able to have 46 def, 46 res, on top of 49 speed, or 53 speed, I guess. And on top of, well, 73 attack. That's pretty good. But oh well. Things did not go the way I wanted. But yeah, let's move on to other things. So this is the banner. I'll say one thing. Don't summon for blue. Blue ain't worth shit. It just doesn't have anything really worth mentioning in it. Sorin is not great. In a lot of ways, you can just use La Rochelle and get most of what Sorin gives as far as stats are concerned. Well, you may even, you know, provide ploys with La Rochelle. Kiel is... I have no idea why she's here. I don't understand why she's here. Like, the more I'm thinking about it, the more it makes no sense. She's just a slightly better Effie. Why is she here? Like, I get that she has Bolt Fighter, so she has to remain 5-star exclusive, but she's definitely not legendary worthy. Freddy's a better unit, for God's sake. And Ephraim is a decent unit, but he's definitely more of a one-off than a merge project. Blue is by far the worst color. That much is obvious. Now, the second and third best are both green and colorless. It really depends on how, or rather what you need. For example, if you want Thrasir, and you have a Raisin you want to build, Green Dual Flyer is fantastic for Raisin. Raisin is one of the best cheerleading unit of this game. Period. So, hey, that's really, really good. If you can pull Veronica, you can fodder her for Raisin, and there you go, you have one of the better dancer of this game available as a cheerleader. Provides heals, provides dancing, provides buffs, easy mobility. Like, there's a lot to like about Raisin, so yeah. Yoon is she's not a great unit. I'm gonna be honest with you all. She's not a great unit. She's decent, but she's definitely not a must-have, and as far as Thrasir is concerned, Lowen is a bit better. Although she does have Flashing Blade 4 and Panic Smoke, which are both really good skills. But if you already have Green Dual Flyers on Raisin, then it kind of ends up becoming, you either pull Thrasir or you pull more or less nothing. That's not to say that the other two units are bad units. I do think Spring Veronica is going to age like fine wine. And I'm not making that as a joke, I'm saying this because Attack Def Push could become a skill. And Attack Def Push 4? My guy? On top of her weapon, which gives 4 across the board, that would already push your stat on top of Fortify Flyer, of course, to 33 defense and 35 res. Then you add Mystic Boost to keep yourself afloat. Potentially a healer to replace Mystic Boost. And you end up having a fairly tanky flyer that can actually dish out good amounts of damage. This is why I say that she might age well. Right now, though, she's not great. But the second that we get something else in attack speed push 4, I can definitely see her shine a whole lot more. Let me tell you that. Now, for colorless, you have Mystic Boost fodder, which is one of the best skill fodder of this game, honestly. There are so many units that can use Mystic Boost well, it's ridiculous. Any kind of tank that does not need Quick Riposte should be running Mystic Boost. I run this on Naga, and my Naga just doesn't ever die, in general. Obviously not in AR, because in AR you have AoE busters, but still, that's really good. Fallen Corin is still, in my opinion, the best infantry unit, or rather the best melee infantry unit. Obviously Alm exists, but yes, Corin is a fairly disgusting individual, which, yeah, it is what it is. I still don't understand why IS made that weapon a solo skill with a third of the drawback of a solo skill. Holy piss. And then you have Jenny. Jenny is not that great. I'm gonna be honest. She is a decent fodder unit. You've seen I've put Fire Flood Balm as one of the skill that she has as fodder. The reason is simple. That's a 300 SP special skill for healers. Unless you're using one of these, like, combination balms. Well, I'm sorry, my dude. You don't have the maximum SP cost. So that's why it's there. It's not high priority, of course, but it's there. I suppose I'll be using that on Brady, because I did pull one, because I wanted to have an air. Or a Corin for infantry flowers, but oh well. Of course, I was graced with that one. And Raffle Staff, of course. Though we're starting to see more and more mages that don't need to have both Dazzle and Raffle Staff. Not Jenny, what the hell am I saying? Mercedes, Brady. Both of these units do not need Dazzling Staff. They can use it, and it can be helpful, but they don't require it to function. Like, they're not the type of unit like Lucius who would get exploded if they didn't have it. Brady can definitely handle himself, and so can Mercedes. Especially Mercedes. Mercedes is one hell of a unit right now. So, yeah. That's why I say green and colorless are kind of equal. It really depends on if you're building a racing or not. If you are, green is better. If you're not, then colorless is honestly better. That's kind of just how I feel. And then the best is obviously red. Elwood being one of the best buffer of this entire game, able to buff across the map, which is very, very good utility. On top of giving bonus doubler, so even if that's not what you're going for, well, you have this on top of it. Rid is still one of the best legendary units to have come out yet, and I'm gonna be honest, unlike Alm, he's actually balanced, which is a nice welcome change. I would like to see more Rids and less Alms. Let me just put it that way. And Erica. Now, Erica is the one exception to the rule. Yeah, she can hit like a truck if dealing with tanks, since she basically has Black Luna but better if you run Moonbow. I say it's better because the 30% def, or rather the 50% def that you basically remove and add to your attack, that's true damage. You will always do damage with it. So, for example, if, you know, Erica has 50 attack and hits someone with 70 attack, which Moonbow would still ting on, and Black Luna would be doing, let me see. With 50 attack on Erica, of course, that would be 36 damage if it was Black Luna. Here, on the other hand, though, you get 35 damage from the 70 defense of your enemy added to the damage. So even if you basically, you know, with Ting, with Moonbow, you still do 35 damage. Because it's true damage. And Luna is even worse on that regard. You basically would get 50 damage out of that. Straight up. Pretty easily, which is quite good. So, yeah. I guess there's that as a niche. Otherwise, Erica is not that great. And attack speed solo is a decent skill, yes, but it's very niche. A lot of users can use it, but it can also backfire on you because, say you're using... For example, a lot of people want me to run attack speed solo on Jamkey. And the reason why I haven't is, well, first off, that doesn't really synergize with AoEs, but that's beyond the point. It's the fact that I can be next to a dancer and then suddenly I lose 6 attack and 6 speed, which kinda suck if I'm setting up for another dancer to be dancing Jamkey after. Losing 6 attack is quite substantial for a Brave Bow, so yeah. Obviously, Cavs are the best suited for this type of skill, but yeah. I think that about it sums it up. In general, I would say, if you really want Thrasir, don't summon on this banner. I believe in December, she's coming back with Guntra, and Guntra is a really good unit right now. She's one of these units that aged like a fine wine, in the sense that, holy goddamn hell, it really, really shows how the game really went from this, yeah, debuffs works, but ploys are not exactly consistent, and neither are chill or B-skill, to, oh my god, chills, and, or rather, oh my god, buffs, debuffs are so easy to spread around. You'd be a fool not to want to use Guntra. Like, Guntra's weapon is extremely good now. It's really, really good. Just because it's so easy to spread debuff, just having a Versa can essentially give you 30 plus damage per hit. That's nuts. But, yeah, I would definitely just wait for December. I'm hoping for Nagi to be the 3rd character, but we'll see. If that's the case, well, I might end up merging a Thrasir. I don't fucking know. But, yeah. That is all I have to say about this banner. So, yeah. I suppose I'm gonna be seeing you all on either Discord or on YouTube. Have a nice one, y'all. And good night.